I would like to open the public portion of the June 28th, 2023 Ridgefield Park Board of Education meeting. The time is now 7:53. Let's begin with the flag salute. Can you read the call?
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Ridgefield Park Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Bergen Record, Star Ledger, municipal buildings, Board of Education offices, and the district website. Mr. Cathcart, Mr. Cooney, Mrs. Kraft,
Here.
Mr. Phytros, Mr. Gomes,
Here.
Mrs. McNeil,
Here.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Here.
Mrs. Velez,
Here.
Mrs. Ord,
Here.
Dr. Martinez. We have a quorum.
We have no minutes to approve and no correspondence from the public. Let's move to committee reports. Negotiations, Trustee McNeil.
No report at this time, thank you.
Buildings and Grounds Chair is Mr. Cooney, who's not here tonight. There is no report as the committee did not meet, but Dr. Bender will be reporting an update in her superintendent report. Policy, Trustee Rodriguez.
Thank you. The policy committee met June 26th at 6 p.m. In attendance was Dr. Vespignani, Mr. Disler, myself, Trustee Orth, and Trustee Velez. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss Alert 230. The committee spent a significant amount of time reviewing the policies in need of revision or updated based on changes in statutes, codes, or laws. We anticipate providing the revision at our next board meeting and are drafting the revised version of these policies, taking into account any feedback or suggestions made during the meeting. I just want to mention that one of the policy was 9140 Citizen Advisory Committee. There's no legal requirement for policy 9140. However, the committee, under the recommendation of Strauss Esme, SEA, expressed the need for a Citizen Advisory Committee. And this will add value to our district and address the current needs of our stakeholders. We concluded the meeting with a discussion regarding the use of facility policy, the need to conduct additional research regarding the establishment of the school threat assessment policy or teams, and the need to adhere to current policy. Thank you.
Faculty and Programs, Trustee Kraft.
We did not meet.
Finance and Insurance, Trustee Gomes.
We did not meet, but we plan a meeting soon.
I'm just going to update here on busing. On Tuesday, June 20th, Dr. Martinez and I met with representatives from Little Ferry regarding the proposed contract for transportation services. We reiterated to Little Ferry that our intention with the proposed contract was to recoup the true costs of the program associated with transporting Little Ferry students, and it was not our intentions to price gouge or make a profit. Little Ferry has expressed their concern that the costs to their districts were increasing dramatically, and they feared having to cut programs to absorb those costs. We agreed to meet again in mid-July to continue the discussion in the hopes of coming to an equitable agreement. Personnel, Trustee Kraft.
Good evening. The Personnel Committee met on June 15th. Present were Dr. Vespignani, Dr. Martinez, Trustee Orth, myself, and Trustee Cooney. We discussed the open positions within the district, in particular the BA position. We discussed the number of applicants that had been received and were passed over to Dr. Vespignani for further evaluation. We discussed district organization chart, and we also discussed the need for someone to oversee the ever-growing preschool program.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have a committee report, but I do want to just make a statement, which I believe is on behalf of most of the board members here. But Nancy Loiacono is leaving our district, and just wanted to acknowledge her. I don't know if she's listening in or she'll listen in tomorrow, but she has been a valuable member of our business office, especially during this budget cycle when Ms. Grabstein was on her way out. Ms. Loiacono performed admirably and gave us information that we needed. So just want to thank her on behalf of the board.
And I would just like to say on behalf of the board, I'd like to acknowledge and honor Dr. Bender, who has dedicated numerous years of her life to our school district. As she nears the end of her term as the superintendent of schools, the board would like to express our gratitude and bid her farewell from this particular role. During her time as superintendent, Dr. Bender has served our district diligently, and we recognize the efforts she has made to advance our educational institution. We appreciate her commitment and the contribution she has made to the growth and the development of our schools. We understand that this news brings about uncertainty and concern regarding Dr. Bender's future role within our district. We assure you that the board is actively engaged in assessing the best way to utilize her skills, experience, and knowledge to benefit our educational community moving forward. We are committed to finding a suitable position that aligns with her strengths and the district's needs. It is essential to emphasize that the board's decision regarding the non-extension of Dr. Bender's contracts did not diminish the value of her past accomplishments and the positive impact she had on our schools. We express our appreciation for her years of service and the achievements realized under her leadership. As we navigate this transition, we acknowledge that change can be challenging, and we remain committed to creating stability within our district and ensuring that all students, teachers, and staff continue to receive the quality education they deserve. We extend our gratitude to Dr. Bender for her service and wish her success in her future endeavors within our school district. We are confident that her expertise and dedication will continue to contribute positively to this educational community. And we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Ms. Zorn. Thank you, Board of Ed. I'm happy to share that we had a successful end to our school year. Dr. Cusmano attended several promotions with me, and they went smoothly. Even Mother Nature cooperated for our high school graduation. I often speak about our academic initiatives, such as our aviation program, where our students actually use flight simulators, our summer enrichment program with the Meadowlands Environmental Center, the evening family activities, and that the Meadowlands Mobile Lab comes and visits our schools. We have added new courses and opportunities for our high school or early college dual enrollment. We instituted new language arts assessment programs for teachers to implement benchmark assessments and classroom formal and informal assessment information into the newly implemented data warehouse software to provide teachers with easy access to analyze assessments, results, and plan lessons accordingly. These are just a few of examples of the hard work that has been happening in Richfield Park for our students by our teachers, staff, and administrators. Thank you to everyone. I wish all of those who are retiring and moving on much success in your future chapters. Welcome to Dr. V. Looking forward, I see you back there, looking forward to working with you. Now I'd like to share what has been happening in our district since 2019 through today and where we are going. This is all because of the hard work and dedication of Mr. Tevis, Mr. Demikoff, Ms. Grabstein, Mr. Egan, and now Dr. Kuzmano. While there is still a long list of building needs, we should be very proud of our accomplishments. So as you can see, in 2019 to 2020 school year, we had replaced doors in Grant School, Roosevelt School, and the high school. The boiler system, the upgrades to Grant School, Lincoln School, and the high school. Roof replacement at the high school and window replacement at Grant School. Next slide. In 2020 to 2021, we had complete total bathroom renovations in the Grant School, Roosevelt School, and our high school. We had the HVAC controls upgraded district-wide, and our wall waterproofing was at Lincoln School. Next slide. 2021 to 2022, the curtain wall replacement began at the high school. We had window replacements at Roosevelt School. We upgraded the controls at Roosevelt and the high school, and a boiler replacement at Grant School. The roofs were replaced at Grant School and Roosevelt School. Boiler system in 22 23 was the boiler stair replacement, the gym flooring and lighting at the high school. If you take a look at our high school gym, it looks fantastic. It's a brand new gym. In 2023 to now, we have finally begun our culinary arts and our science lab. This is long time waiting to have happen, and I'm very excited to see this finally taking place. Mr. Tevis and I and Mr. Demikoff worked very hard to pull that together, and I want to thank Solutions for their help with that. The unit ventilator replacement at Lincoln School, and we are now have the capacity assessment is now ready to be shared from Solutions Architecture. Next slide. Other work that has been completed, mostly in-house. All schools have paving projects done. All buildings entirely repainted during COVID from internal staff. Painting of the ceiling and new scarlet red ductwork was done. New interior fire doors at Roosevelt, Grant School, and the high school. And all schools' exterior lighting. And thank you, everyone, for your support and guidance and patience throughout COVID and throughout the last 4 years. It is much appreciated, greatly appreciated, and I wish you all health and happiness over the summer. Enjoy. And that concludes my report.
Mr. Egan, the state monitor's report.
Yes, thank you. Many of the things that the board commented on and Dr. Bender, I would just like to just follow up a little bit. With Richfield Park, the financial plan that was there was a good one. They were able to budget funds for doing capital projects and maintenance projects on a consistent basis. I follow up on that to continue it. That will continue going into over the summer. As the Dr. Bender mentioned, the capital projects at the high school, it started already. It started timely, and have all expectations that will be finished in time for opening of school. Yes, everything will be finished. With respect to what was brought up before too, that the negotiations with Little Ferry got off to, in my opinion, a good start. They're going to take care of the summer transportation, and with the help with Dr. Cusmano, the money that we were presented to Little Ferry, we're waiting for them to comment on. That would be for the summer transportation. There's something that wasn't mentioned, maybe the board doesn't know about it. There was an issue with our food service contract with Pomptonian. Not an issue, it's just the paperwork to get everything done. And that's being processed with the help of Dr. Guzmano to get the U.S. Department of Agriculture to okay the contract, so it will be a smooth opening in September. Last but not least, with payroll, not payroll, personnel, as mentioned, the business administration administrator search is ongoing. I'm working very closely with the new superintendent, Dr. Joe, and we have a process going forward to ensure that we get the good candidate, and that it's a process that will continue for every position going forward. We have the and just to summarize for the audience, not only is it the BA position, we need the payroll position. We're going to need an assistant BA. We have the curriculum position and the early childhood, and there are other teaching positions. Ordinary, they're not as high exposure as some of the administrative positions, but the district still has to maintain and make sure they have teachers in every classroom for September, and they're working forward with that. I think there was one that I authorized to be put on the agenda for tonight. I don't know if the second one got on there or was going to be walked in. And before that happened, I just wasn't exercising my authority. I had conversations with the new superintendent coming in and explained everything to him, and he was on board with it also. Because one thing that we, myself and him, we agree on, that there has to be a process to pick and select competent people for the vacancies that occur in the district, whether it goes down to the lowest support groups and also all certificated staff. And I think that's important that gets done, because it will lead to better confidence from the public with the school district. I just checked my notes. So ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Before hearing citizens' comments on agenda, I would like to ask for a motion to amend the order of the meeting to read new business items into the regular agenda to allow the public to comment.
I make a motion that we move new business 1601 into the personnel section.
Second.
Not to approve the motion, just to approve that we're changing the order of the meeting. Yes.
I'm going to read the public participation instructions And then go ahead and read also the 16.01 resolution that was just made part of the personnel, part of the regular agenda. Public participation will be conducted both in person and virtually through Zoom. All public will be muted throughout the meeting. Public participation comments are limited to 5 minutes. The public will be able to speak and be seen by the board when participating virtually, telephonically, via Zoom. Individuals participating virtually that wish to make comments during public participation will need to raise their hand by clicking the blue hand icon at the bottom of their Zoom window. Individuals participating by telephone that wish to make comments during public participation need to hit *9 on their telephone to raise their hand. The Business Administrator Board Secretary will then unmute individuals one at a time to speak in the order their hand was raised.
Now, I will read the public comment guidelines. For tonight's meeting, there will be 2 public comment sessions, one on agenda and one off agenda. What? Sorry, guys. For tonight's meeting, there will be 2 public comment sessions, one on agenda and one off agenda items. There is a sign-up sheet on the podium. We'll call your name in the order in the order that you signed in. Each member of the public will have 5 minutes to speak during each comment period. Time cannot be transferred to other individuals. The public comment period will be 1 hour on agenda items and 1 hour for non-agenda items. The board will not entertain public comment. Please remember to state your name, mailing address, and to keep your comment brief to allow sufficient time for other members of the public to speak if they wish. Thank you for your cooperation and support.
I think now we're going to read the agenda item, right? 1601.
Resolution 1601, Employment Special Education 23-24. Be resolved that the Board of Education, on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approves the appointment of Ms. Lauren Kushner to the position of Special Education Teacher in the Ridgefield Park Public School District for the 2023-2024 school year. Ms. Kushner will be placed on Step 1 MA and receive a salary of $71,261 effective September 1, 2023 through June 30, 2024.
All right, we'll now move to public comment on agenda. Janet Malul.
Janet Malul, 163 East Grand. It's green. Okay. It's on. Ah, there it goes. Okay, resolutions 9.06 and 07. These were kind of new to me, but I'm not into the sports arena and haven't been for many years here. Is there a reason for this idea of non-contact? This is.
It's required by NJ.
It's required. Okay, just kind of interesting on what would have created that reasoning. And the second one, the heat acclimation. I honestly never understood how we had kids out there in heavy gear in high 90 degree temps and humidity running around, especially when you would listen to the parents complaining on Facebook about a hot day, you know, a June or September 90-degree day in a classroom where they were screaming for air conditioning, yet the kids were allowed to be running around outside, where I think it was way more dangerous, but that's just my own kind of opinion. So I'm glad that we're easing them into it and using precautions instead of worrying about them, immediately getting into playing when their bodies aren't used to it. 11, 13, 11, 18. Those. I see several recommendations for programs to enhance and improve our methods of teaching in the hopes of improving skills and understanding in the different academic areas. Next semester, as we move forward with the new superintendent, I just hope everybody remembers that these were Dr. Bender's programs that were brought to the district that seemed to be forgotten during Dr. Haynes taking her place. 13.03. I see we have another resignation. So if my count is right, I think we just have a few secretaries left in our district office. I find that really scary to think that we have basically emptied out the whole top echelon of our district. And I really hope that you find people that can come in and take over on the fly, because that's what they're going to need to do. There's, typically when you have people of that level, you have somebody going out, you've already got somebody lined up, and there's some kind of a transfer of information. With no transfer of information, I really, really find it hard to believe that anything's going to run smoothly. 13.15, Dean of 7th and 8th grade. Is this new? No? Okay.
No, repeat.
All right, this is the first I'm noticing it. Be interesting to see what her duties are in that type of position, and that can wait for next year. Okay, 13, I think was the last one on my list. I looked at the list and I see all the admin positions, and looks like most people are staying where they are. But I did not see Dr. Bender listed. And she's entitled to an admin position of some sort anyway. And from the looks of it, you've got almost everything already sewn up there. Today's the 28th. Her contract ends in 2 days. Most, as far as I know, most supervisory positions are year-round positions. So I would hope that over the next 2 days, she's aware of where she's going to be when she comes back on whatever, as of, what would be July 1st position. I just find it frustrating in the fact that it was very obvious, at least to me, and I think a lot of people in the district, parents and residents, that when you brought her back 4 months ago, you weren't rehiring her. Giving her the opportunity to interview was just a courtesy. And to now still not have her in some kind of a position ready to go, I think is really very unfair. And I think it's a lack of responsibility on your part for not at least working that through better, and to have the public hanging as to where she's going to be. I think is just wrong, unless you're going to do what you did with Diane and put her in a closet somewhere, which is totally wrong. So I really hope we hear some good news tonight as to what position she'll be in, or at least by the next meeting. But considering that would have had to been approved by tonight to be effective July 1, I don't understand how you work. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Ms. Malou. Jay Sean Sadler.
Good evening, everybody. Okay, so I'd like to address item number 13.14 on the agenda in reference to the recommendation of Christopher Gibbons as volunteer football coach. I'd like to emphatically and unequivocally state my opposition to this recommendation. Mr. Gibbons previously served in this role and exhibited a shocking and brazen lack of integrity during his most recent tenure in this role. As many of you may recall, Mr. Gibbons was observed by a number of citizens in open and clear violations of the conditions he agreed to upon taking the position as volunteer coach imposed on him by the board, limiting his role. When confronted about his open violation of these conditions, which he gave his word to follow, he denied having done so, openly lying about his violation of the agreement publicly. Subsequent to his public denials, when directly observed in the act, in open violation of the agreement he agreed to follow by myself and another district parent, Mrs. Christina Ramos, Mr. Gibbons resorted to the usage of ugly, dangerous, vicious, racist tropes in a sad and weak attempt to deflect from his own wrongdoing and to disavow responsibility for his actions. These actions caused tremendous harm, to myself, to my family, and also I think anytime you're propagating racist tropes, they do harm to the community at large as well, and I take that very seriously. There are a multitude of other concerns I could raise here, calling into question Mr. Gibbons's character, his integrity, and subsequently his fitness to perform in a privileged position as volunteer football coach, a position which should be reserved for people that our student athletes can look up to and learn from as role models. I hope that you will consider my concerns as you vote on this resolution, recommending him to continue in his position as volunteer football coach. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sadler. Susan DeSantis?
Susan DeSantis, 15 Homestead Place. Resolution 1303. Well, again, another board office employee is leaving. It's pretty much emptied out at this point. I don't think there's really very many positions left. I think Janet has really said it all, but I'm sure the board isn't concerned with it. 1314. The only thing I can say is, are you people really kidding? After everything that was exposed that this man pulled last year, the lies that he told publicly, his behavior. I mean, the community voted him out because of his character. And is this really what we're going to have as a role model for our kids on the football field? Somebody that engages with that kind of behavior? It's disgraceful, and I can't believe that it's even on the agenda. That's all.
Thank you, Mrs. DeSantis. Mr. DeSantis?
Good evening, DeSantis, 15 Homestead Place. Superintendent, and the accomplishments that you put forward in your report, which included the board's accomplishments, but many of these things were yours, was very, very well done. And very appreciated be able to put that out on a video for everyone to really see. Resolution 1303, Damatis Don is a key part of our board office. He did an excellent job with our payroll. He was always available for staff questions. It is with great disappointment that he has decided to move on, along with so many other people. The amount of people that have left the central office and other positions is almost unheard of at this point. I don't know why for some of these positions, when people gave notice, the superintendent wasn't allowed to put people in those positions to fill them. So graciously, you're here to pay the bills, and I thank you. And you were right in how the resolution 1601 was read. So thank you for doing it right. And but we don't have any minutes since March, because we have no BA, no board secretary. So Don will be missed. I think he's one of the bigger losses we've had. And I, as a prior board member, will be ever grateful to him for his work. 1314. What is there to say about this? I probably won't get an answer to this question, but with all the disruption that happened, forget who the person is. We had lies about activities. We had our students be shown you don't have to obey the rules if you're just arrogant enough to ignore them. I don't know how that's a role model. And to think after all this, of all the possible people, to put Mr. Gibbons in as a football coach again, when the way he treated the public, the way he handled himself at a board meeting, the arrogance he showed on the field, and what he told their students, most importantly, is you can do whatever you want because nothing's going to happen to me. That it is with great disappointment that this board, if they choose to do so, will put somebody back in contact with our students. Because if that was his attitude before, what's going to change now? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Is there anyone to promote? If there's no one else to promote and no one else would like to speak, I'd like to close public comment at 8:30. We will now move to our agenda items. Trustee Kraft, would you please move faculty and programs?
Sure. I make a motion to move resolution 901 to 907.
Second.
Any comments? I'm sorry. Any comments?
I just have a question about the process for the adaptation of both the science and the social studies curricula. If Dr. Brenner, if you could just kind of give us an overview of what that process looks like.
So, Ms. Kraft, can you, absolutely, Ms. Kraft. Let's try it again. Much better, right? Yes, Ms. Kraft, the process for picking new programs and curriculum areas, supplemental materials is done through a committee, which entails having teachers and administrators on. And they go through and they also, as you would know, that they contact, the principals contact other local principals to find out how they feel about the programs that they're using. It's pretty in-depth look to see what's working in other districts similar to ours and also not so similar to ours, and get a feel for other programs. And then they come to a consensus, they evaluate, they have the presenter in, and they come up with a decision.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll take the roll.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mrs. Velez,
Yes.
Mrs. Ord,
Yes.
motion carried.
There's no buildings and grounds. Trustee Gomes, would you please move finance and insurance?
Certainly. I move FI 1101 to 1120.
Second.
Any comments or questions on 1101 through 1120?
No.
Seeing no comments?
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mrs. Velez,
Yes.
Mrs. Ord,
Yes.
motion carried.
Trustee Rodriguez, would you please move consent agenda?
Sure. Sorry. I so moved consent agenda 1201 and 1202.
Second.
Any comments or questions on 1201 or 1202? Seeing none?
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mrs. Velez,
Yes.
Mrs. Ord,
Yes.
motion carried.
Trustee Caff, would you move personnel?
I'd like to make a motion to move resolution 1301 to 1328. And 1601.
Second.
Any comments, questions?
I have two questions. I have two questions. One is on 1311. I thought that one was being adjusted for one of the administrators. That 1311 was being adjusted for one of the administrators in light of the new contract? Yes.
Is um,
Received guidance.
the guide from council, and council recommended we change it to a maximum number of hours, and that was something that needed to be managed by the administration. That the 20 days be first before tapping into these 50 hours.
Okay. And 1321, I did get an answer to my question, but I still don't understand it. It's an annual salary rate with a maximum number of hours, but no minimum. What's the expectation of the schedule for these folks? No, the rest of them. 1321. The question is, what is their schedule? They will not work more than 30 hours per week, but for their annual salary, what is the work expectation?
They're teaching assistants. They have their hourly. They work 30 unless otherwise noted. As you see at the bottom, you have one that is working 4 hours a day instead.
I think what she's saying is that the way the resolution reads, the resolution reads, will not work more than 30 hours. It doesn't say they have to work 30 hours.
Okay, so then their annual salary would be adjusted. School year at an annual salary of 27,375 for 30, no more than 30 hours a week. Work 30 hours a week, no more. You want to pull it? We can pull it.
No, I'd like to.
Change the
I'd like
wording,
to
amend it?
Yeah, I would like to
Sure.
amend it that says that the teacher assistants are expected to work a 30-hour week. I'm making a motion to amend 1321.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
They're expected to work a 30-hour week. Okay, no more, because these are assistant teachers that are assigned to buildings and they have a schedule. And I think it's just to basically, so they won't work more than 30 to.
I understand that, but my point is that if we're paying someone an annual salary, there's nothing in here that says what that is in exchange for. It just says,
But they,
what they won't
okay,
go over.
because they do have
That's
a
what I'm
schedule,
looking
they do have a schedule to follow. And then it says right here, Ms. DeLuca works 4 hours a day and will be paid. So I see what your question is.
I'd like to ask Carrie, is there wording that we can use that just indicates that there is a schedule that goes along with the salary as opposed to purely a maximum? I know these people work, right? I just want to make sure that we're approving the right language.
Sure. So my thought would be to add, let me just give it a. How about it's the last sentence currently reads teachers assistants will not work more than 30 hours per week. And instead, if we rewrote it to read teacher assistants will work a set schedule of approximately 30 hours per week and no more than 30 hours per week.
That sounds good to me.
I have two questions. I have one statement and then one suggestion, one
Wait,
recommendation.
if we're going
You
to
have to-
amend this
You have to,
motion,
yeah, you have to vote now. You can have discussion on the motion to amend, but you need to vote on the motion to amend the resolution before you can have other discussion about this resolution or some other resolution that was in the original motion.
okay, so do we have a second to amend the resolution to read the way Ms. Wright suggested?
I'll second it.
Any questions on the motion to amend? Okay, we'll call the roll.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mrs. Velez,
Yes.
Mrs. Ord,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, any additional questions on personnel resolutions?
I have two statements, I guess. My first statement is that I'm thrilled to see that Coach Lax is going to be heading our girls soccer program. It's about time that our girls soccer team gets someone who builds a program. I've seen Coach Lax, what she's done with the basketball team. I'm thrilled that she's going to be able to lead our girls soccer program. So that's awesome. I have some concerns about Resolution 1314, and I would like to make a motion that we pull it from the agenda to do a further character evaluation before moving forward with this resolution.
I'll second that motion.
Any comments on the motion to table 1314 for further evaluation?
I just have one comment for the public. The resolution is on here at the recommendation of the superintendent. The board does not put the resolutions on the agenda. I agree with Ms. Kraft that we should table this so that the board has the opportunity to understand what character vetting took place in order to put this on.
With that clarification, trustee McNeil, I'm comfortable with it. I was about to speak up and say that the board respectfully cannot direct the superintendent to undergo a character evaluation of a specific employee, but you certainly are permitted as board members to inquire as to the process that led to the recommendation from the superintendent. So I'm comfortable with that.
So table and then have that conversation, or have that conversation here?
I would not recommend you have that conversation in a public setting. I would recommend that
Okay.
you table it.
Table.
Ms. Wright, I just want to clarify that this is a volunteer position. This is not a paid position that I put on the agenda, correct?
So my understanding from prior board actions in this regard is that the volunteer nature has not always been at the recommendation of the superintendent, because it is a volunteer appointed by the board. But I still believe that if the board has questions about this, they can table it. You do have a new superintendent coming in for the next meeting, and the football season doesn't yet start. So you can certainly get some information on whether you want to move forward with this. And it sounds like in general, the board has some questions about the appointment, whether it comes from the recommendation of the superintendent or not.
Okay, so any other comments on tabling 1314? Okay, so then we're going to call the roll on the motion to table personnel item 1314.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
No.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Velez,
Yes.
Mrs. Orr,
Yes.
motion carried.
Any other comments or questions on personnel agenda items? Seeing none, we will call the roll finally.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Velez,
Yes.
Mrs. Orr,
Yes.
motion carried.
We should move to citizens' comments on off-agenda items. Yes, I will. Jennifer Schmidt?
Hello, Jennifer Schmidt, 138 Fifth Street. First, I just wanted to say welcome to Dr. V, I'll call him. welcome. And I hope you come to love being here at Richfield Park as much as I do. Then I wanted to echo what Ms. Malul had said at the last meeting. Director of Curriculum, Dr. Haynes' resignation was in months ago, so I would assume that knowing that you've explored options for filling that role. Obviously I assume there's no decision made yet, but I do think Dr. Bender would be a great fit for that role. For all the reasons that Ms. Malul already said at the last meeting. Then I just have two questions. Are all volunteer coaches required to be on agenda for approval by the Board of Ed?
I believe so, yes.
Is that our policy or is that like a state rule?
I think it's a state rule required.
Okay, and it's not really clear, like, is there any exceptions to that, I guess is my question, like how much you volunteer, your specific role as a volunteer, or none of that? It's just pretty.
Yeah, I think we're gonna let Ms. Wright answer that.
I have my hand raised. The board has a very specific policy on volunteers. And there is a definition in it. I don't have it right here in front of me, but there's a specific definition in the board policy regarding what constitutes a volunteer. You know, if your question is, does a parent who maybe comes into the school once or twice a year for something related to, you know, his or her student's class, does that constitute a volunteer? I don't believe it does under the definition, but the policy has a specific definition of what constitutes a volunteer.
Okay,
I
thank you.
believe
Can I
it's
add to
policy
that?
9181.
Thank you. What is it? 1981? 9181. Oh,
I'm
okay.
going to add to that, Ms. Schmidt, for you. Typically, if I remember correctly, September, all of the schools provide a volunteer list for each building and it gets board approved.
Okay.
That's
And it's
a
mostly-
volunteer
is it-
list for like internal.
Is it mostly just sports and things? I mean,
No.
PTA gets approved, class moms. Okay,
Us moms.
Okay.
I think it's interaction with students.
okay. And I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm just throwing it out there. I know obviously Richfield Park Elementary School employees have coached for high school sports. Is that correct? I think there's even maybe some on the list right now.
I believe you're correct. I don't know specifically, but I believe you're correct.
Yeah, I think so. So can a Little Ferry employee who works at the Little Ferry Elementary School be a paid coach for the high school? I think the answer is no, or maybe it's yes.
No, I believe there's probably something that says that it has to be offered to Richfield Park employees first.
In the teacher's contract, they have first dibs
Okay,
if they're qualified.
okay.
But we can and do hire out of district coaches as
Okay.
well.
Thank you. That's it.
And Malul?
Janet Malul, 163 East Grand. Do we have any count, and I know you probably don't have it here at this moment, but is it possible to find out how many eighth graders are staying here or tested to go to the specialty schools at the district office? Would the schools have record of that?
I'm sure they could pull the data.
Okay, I'm just curious how many are staying in district and how many are going, which leads into my next question or comment. The amount of building going up in Little Ferry, every time you go over the bridge, you see one, and those other towers, I believe, are more mixed use buildings going in. I'm waiting for the day when they finish and they can just reach out their windows and just touch a car. It seems so close. RP is slated, I believe, to have almost 1,500 units going in. If Challenger Road development it's approved, as far as I know, but if and when that's built, and also those small pockets of apartments that have gone up throughout the village the proper end of the village. So I'm wondering, as we project out for the next 5 years, do we have any projections of population? Population, not only just general student population, and I guess it'll take a while before we can figure out, by building or grade. Is that in the works at this point?
So to that, in Dr. Report, you saw that the capacity assessment is now available that we asked
Okay.
for from our from Solutions Architecture.
Okay,
We haven't received that report yet, but we had been waiting for that. In
okay,
addition, we do have a demographic study that was done. I'm not going to quote the date,
okay.
recently.
Recently, okay.
Within the last 5 years. So,
Okay. Yeah.
that's the most recent that we have. I don't know exactly when it was done, but I know it was reasonably recently.
Okay.
And yes, the Buildings and Grounds Committee has been working with administration to answer exactly those questions.
Okay, because that's, I think, another major hurdle we're going to be looking at. And that can have all kinds of implications for us financially and staff-wise and every other way. And the other thing I wanted to ask is, will there be an opportunity for like a meet and greet over the summer with Dr. V, just for the community to come out and say hi and, see the new head honcho around here?
So I know that we have invited Dr. B and his family to attend our 4th of July celebration, which I believe he has accepted that invitation, but I'm
Okay.
sure that he will set up meet and greets like you speak of.
Okay.
It was something that was discussed previously, but
Okay.
I don't have any formal dates for that or anything.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Ms. Gottlieb?
Leslie Gottlieb, 464A Liberty Street, Little Ferry. I want to again thank Dr. Binder for the early college program. It's an unappreciated jewel in RP. My son was in that very first class. He just got his degree. He's the first one to get a bachelor's degree out of that program. And I hope Dr. B encourages that program and expands and builds on it. And that leads to my second thing with Little Ferry. A couple of points, as you know, we have a new superintendent, Mr. Perpato, coming in, and a new middle school principal, Mr. Piekler. And we hope that they will be able to build a relationship with someone in the administration here, like there was when Diane Thiemann was in the middle school principal. We want to encourage the students to come to RP that don't automatically flee off to Paramus Catholic. I mean, some are just as well from you or from us. You're going to lose some people to the county academies. There always will be. But we want the kids to stay in the district and let the district flourish the way it should. That it isn't an automatic, no, I won't go to RP High School for both districts. It looks bad on both districts. And that being said, I want to welcome Dr. B to RP and may he be a success there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gottlieb. I think I misspoke. His name is Dr. Vespiani, so it's Dr. V. And I think I said Dr. B a little bit ago, so I apologize for that. Ms. DeSantis?
Just a little clarification. It's a board agenda, not a superintendent's agenda. And it's created by the board president, superintendent, BA, and monitor. When can we expect the minutes from February on to be put up on the website?
We don't know yet.
we don't know. Okay, you go back to me. I know the agendas are there, but from February, there's nothing for meeting.
And the recordings of the meetings.
Hmm?
The official recordings are up on our website.
Yeah, I know the recordings are there, but there's no minutes, is what I'm saying. So far this year, we've had 11 people resign and 18 leaves of absences, just to state that. And to you, Angela. People are elected to represent the wishes of the people that elected them. Apparently, this board, as well as the last board, doesn't understand the words representative government. And unfortunately, sometimes people hide their agendas to get elected. I just want to say to you to remember, you don't just have the support of the parents and the community, but through this search, you will have this support of all the employees from the bottom up. I thank you wholeheartedly for the 18 years you've put in here so far. And I'm sorry your vision for this district won't come to fruition. And the students will not reap the educational benefits for their future. So I'd just like to thank you. I'm sure I'll be seeing you. And good luck. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mrs. DeSantis. Mr. DeSantis?
It's DeSantis. I'm still at 15 Homestead Place. Thank you, Jody, for reconsidering that resolution and tabling it. I think that it does deserve some discussion. Two quick questions. Number one, do we know where the litigation with Little Ferry is at with over the $1 million? I don't know if that should go to Kerry or if it should go to whoever would like to answer it.
Carrie, can you answer?
Sure. I think we may have reported this at a prior meeting. The commissioner has ruled on that particular case and has ruled that has basically denied Ridgefield Park's petition, indicating that they had agreed not to collect that $1 million in a prior tuition agreement. So, so that is the outcome of that litigation, and the board has made a determination not to appeal that decision.
Okay, so that's not going to be appealed. All right. Everybody has an opinion on something, so you're not going to appeal it. Has everybody, because it kind of hit me the last couple of days, everybody on the newly elected to the board is supposed to go through training, and anybody re-elected into another term, regardless of the time, is supposed to go through training. I just want to make sure, because we don't have a BA, and that's usually a reminder to us of any training we're supposed to have, or if we've missed it. So just a question to the board. You don't have to answer individually, that just be aware of your mandated training, that something doesn't slip through the cracks. And then you get a letter saying, oops, you were supposed to do this. And I know historically the BA is the one that reminded us. So there is training for newly elected board members and of course, board members who are re-elected in the next term. All right, beside that, little reminder, we don't know where Dr. Bender's going the next couple of days. Now, I know as a tenured principal, she's entitled to a principal's position, although there was other administrative spots open. I don't know who will be making that decision as to what Dr. Bender will be in the district, whether it's the board is going to make the decision. I don't know what the thoughts are. Is there options? Because she is entitled to a principal position. However, that's going to mean bumping a principal. And I think the board should make the decision as to what's going to happen with Dr. Bender sooner rather than later. It shouldn't be really up to Dr. Bender. Where she goes, she bumps the principal, then she's the bad guy. If she takes another administrative position away from somebody, then she's the bad guy. It's not fair. She's been through enough, and that's reasonable. I agree wholeheartedly about the idea of director of curriculum. There's nobody more competent, nobody more interested or enthusiastic about that. I don't see how any other directorships, like, well, we don't have a vice principal, principal of the middle school anymore. Certainly, director of the preschool is an open position. She's not qualified to be a BA. Curriculum is perfect, and I would hope that the board can come to that decision very quickly. Should not be Dr. Bender's decision. Because let's face it, community is going to be upset if they lose one of their principals, but Dr. Bender's entitled to it. So in whatever you decide to do, I think Dr. Bender's been through enough. And I hope you would take all of this into consideration. I mean, everybody's smart people, needs, and we should put Dr. Bender where she can help us both. On another quick note, again, Dr. Vespignani, if I said it right, close enough. Vespignani, yeah, you need a name tag. You really do. You have to have a name tag. We all, since this decision should made, put our support behind him. I've always thought that the board, the monitor, and the superintendent should be a check on each other, but work as a team. So I would hope that the staff, the community, I think they will, and the board will give him every opportunity to grow into the position. And in the process, we will not forget the vast resources that Dr. Bender has brought to our district. And I thank you so much, Dr. Bender. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeSantis. Jay Sean Sadler.
Hello again. So I wanted to speak on concerns that I've had regarding physical and emotional safety for our children here in the district. I've spoken about this in previous meetings. I remain concerned. As far as my own personal experience here as a father, I wanted to thank in particular Mr. Taylor Jarvis, who's been phenomenal, Ms. Ava Kodrich, Mrs. Cavens, Dr. Bender, who's here right now. Thank you, Dr. Bender. You've been a tremendous help to my family. You know the things we've gone through, I've spoken to you about, and you've been very helpful. Thank you. Ms. Hott has been amazing. Mr. Tizano, Nurse Erin, just to name some. I hope I'm not forgetting anyone, but these folks in particular have been outstanding. Unfortunately, that has not been my experience with everyone. There has been gross negligence that I've experienced as well from staff members, which I would like full accountability for. I believe that this is, I mean, of the utmost importance. I don't have, enough words to really capture just how critical it is. Emotional, physical safety for our students, and that starts with the adults in the building. I know that the school safety team met, I believe it was last Monday. I was actually supposed to be at that meeting and missed it, unfortunately. My apologies. Ironically, it was really due to the fact that, I have twins who graduated from the 8th grade. And my children have very different experiences here in this district. One of my children, I guess you could say, is a more typical, right, kind of student, no less valuable and important to me. It shouldn't be to the community, but, just more typical. He's, identifies as heterosexual, and he's, into sports, and he's just typical. My other child, not so much. Amazing, wonderful, brilliant, beautiful child, but not typical in the way we would think of typical, and has a very different experience here. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to enjoy the graduation ceremony here with my full family. It's myself and my son alone. And someone had to be with my child because they didn't feel emotionally safe in this building. And I have a huge problem with that. I'm trying to be calm and composed about it here, but I have a huge problem with that. And something needs to be done about that. I believe that continued meetings of the Social Justice Committee is one way that the community can get involved. Quite frankly, I've been disappointed. I feel like it's a missed opportunity. I believe that since the idea came about, maybe we've had 2 or 3 meetings in about 3 years. I think that that's unacceptable. And I'd like to challenge you all to do more. I'd like to help in whatever way I can. I'm here. Anything I can do, please let me know. I'd also like to comment briefly. There's a lot of, we've been talking this evening about resolution 13.14. One comment I wanted to make, another citizen got up earlier this evening and kind of alluded to, if someone is employed in the Little Ferry district, would they have the opportunity, to coach here? And I just wanted to say that if any of you sitting here now were to take a position from our sending district, or to take a paid position from our sending district as you're sitting here serving as a trustee, I'd personally see that as a conflict of interest. And I think that that would call into question your character. That's, my opinion. I have a feeling that many citizens would feel the same. So even as you have tabled 1314 and you deliberate and talk about what needs to be done going forward, I definitely would like you to consider that point. I just feel it's incestuous, and it's a clear conflict of interest for anyone who's in a policy-making role as a trustee to take a position, a paid position from the sending district. I don't think that that helps that person's cause as, an upstanding kind of person of character to be leading our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sadler. And I would encourage you, you've used some strong words of gross negligence, and I would encourage you to follow the chain of command and report that appropriately.
I have been doing so, and I will continue to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Is there anyone to promote? If there's no further. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak?
Hi, how are you? Nancy Serrano, 21 Grove Street. Grove, Grove, on the group. Hi, how are you? Dr. Bender, hello. So I just wanted to come here really quick. I was actually watching it online, and my my internet was going down, so I apologize. I saw Mr. Sadler here. And he's been here possibly almost every other meeting, if not all of them. And I sympathize with him. And I want to second what he said, that I have the same exact similar situation. And yes, there are a lot of negligent teachers here who I feel really should have some training, follow-up, followed all the chains of command, came to these meetings, came out publicly. I've had even a case with another parent, which, yay, a so-called one. There's no pleasure in any of that. This wasn't about a winning or losing. This was about that some parents, teachers, adults are all out of control in this district. I'm not a new parent. I have older children. So none of this stuff was really new to me, except for now how the adults are behaving towards the children. I don't know where I was, if I was working, if I was so chaotic that maybe I wasn't paying attention to things, but now I'm paying attention to everything. And it's insane, some of the things that I've been made aware of and also heard in recordings, because obviously I'm not here, I'm not present at the school to hear those one-on-one interactions. I can honestly say that it is not something that I have ever condoned or ever found amusing by any means, but I can definitely say that I can see why a child may react aggressively towards a teacher. In recordings that I have heard from children throughout the school who now, for their safety, go around recording, walking in the hallways, being in class or whatever. It's interesting. It's interesting the things that they say to the children, how they talk to them, how they belittle them, how even some of our special needs children in these classrooms get really treated, and it's horrible. And if I remember correctly, when I first started coming to these meetings or even addressing anything, it was initially because my daughter was witnessing what was happening to some of the other children. It wasn't even to my own daughter. It was bothering her that she was watching it and she couldn't understand why the adults were talking to the kids that way. Then my own experience came and it went so to such a level that I never thought I would ever be standing here doing this. I really didn't. And I've been here since 1995. And my older children attended here also. And yes, nothing was really perfect. And these meetings, people never really show up to because they got tired of trying to voice their opinions and everything happened to whatever you guys decided anyway. But I'm curious about one thing before I finish here. And I just want to know, by show of hands or whatever, how many of you actually have children here in our district? So 2. Okay. I was just curious about that because I go hearing, between what you guys are fighting, some of the regular parents here that don't even have children, especially Miss Malou, which I love to death. I don't know where she is. She love the things that she's saying. And I realized this lady doesn't even have children here. And she fights hard for a lot of these kids. It's like, why is she fighting so hard? And I felt like none of yous are, or our administrators. She doesn't even have children here. I do. And yes, I don't want to return. I was curious about her question, how many kids are returning? Because I know a lot of them that are not, and a lot of kids that are leaving. And I would love to be able to leave. But that's sad. Why? My daughter wants the same experience that my 2 children got. They graduated from here, they went here, they had all these experiences. But I'm feeling like Mr. Sadler, how we can't even attend events, or the discomforts, or it's not supposed to be this way. I came from the ghetto, let's say, not to live here to experience worse. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Serrano. There's one to promote. Good evening. Could you please state your name and address?
Hi there, my name is Denise Santana Morales, 101 Hobart Street.
Thank you.
Can you all see me, hear me? I can't see myself, so.
We can hear you. We just can't see you.
Okay, all
Your
righty.
name.
Okay, got it. Hi, everybody. Well, that was a difficult comment to follow up with, but I'm gonna try anyway. I wanted to start off by thanking Dr. Bender for all the things that she has done. And you amaze me, Dr. Bender, because last meeting, I did attempt to make a comment, but I guess my hand wasn't seen. And I just wanted to say how your professionalism of staying cool, calm, and collected as you are being told that you will not be returning in your present position is not for the lighthearted. And you definitely handled it like a champ, as you always do. And I just wanted to let you know that you are seen. And I hope that the board, I hope you really take this opportunity. And even though you have made the decision to not make Dr. Bender superintendent of our district, I hope you find a position where she can definitely flourish and continue to help our students be the best version of themselves. I would like to say hello to our new superintendent, Dr. V. So many people are commenting about you needing a name badge. I know I would appreciate practicing your name a little bit, but I do wish you well, you being the new superintendent of our district. We have amazing kids here. And as you have seen, we have parents that we are going to speak up for our children because they're our babies, whether they are 5 years old or 15 plus. At the end of the day, there are lots of mama bears here, but as long as we work together, then our teeth and claws don't have to come out. But if they do, then they, then they will. But it's all for love, because at the end of the day, it's for our future children who will be the future leaders of this world. I want to also thank Dr. Bender for placing Mrs. Hernandez when she did way back when, because Mrs. Hernandez is a great leader at Grant, and I hope you feel that she's doing justice at Grant School. I've had the opportunity to work with her being part of the PTA, and I also wanted to give a shout out also to Nikki Scher, who is the social worker for my son, who is an out-of-district student. She is an amazing social worker, and I have shared with her she's not allowed to retire, but I know one day that will happen. But she's gonna have some big shoes to fill if and when that ever happens. And I just wanted to wish everybody a happy summer. We are not perfect. No district is perfect, but as long as we continue to communicate and keep sharing and keep being there for each other, my hope and dream is that we will really reach the potential that we have the capabilities of reaching. Because again, it's always for our kids. So even when things are tough, sometimes it feels like a roller coaster ride. I just hope that we never lose sight of our kids. Have a good night, everybody, and that's all.
Thank you. You want to speak again? Please.
I forgot to say this before. Susan DeSantis, the process for volunteers, for sports volunteers, if you read your policy, is that the principal of the school recruits sports volunteers. And then it's brought to the superintendent and then put on the agenda. The other thing is, my son, of course, he's an art teacher here. And there's been passive aggressive behavior towards him for a long time. Eric tried to use him as leverage to basically make my husband do what he wanted him to do, which didn't work. And there was an incident here, it's about 4 months ago, where there was an argument between him and one of the administrators. accusing him of being unprofessional, and it really ticked my son off. And they had words. And a couple days later, maybe a week later, I got a message through somebody else that one of the administrators told him that I should sit down and shut up or things were going to get worse for him. Well, it's gone beyond passive aggressive behavior, and I just want to put the board aware that I would like it to stop. It's not acceptable. He has nothing to do with my opinions here, or how I feel, or what I say, or my husband. I'm not going to sit down and shut up for anybody. It's got to stop. And now, no more. That's it.
We encourage and welcome all comments from the public, most especially yours. You speak at every meeting. I would encourage your son to follow the chain of command in reporting any abuses through the proper channels. That's not a board matter. Okay, is there anyone else to promote? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.